Hi folks, I've been wanting to do this video since the day after I posted the weekly overview. First and foremost, posting the weekly overview on a Saturday. I don't know how I feel about it. There's something about posting the weekly overview on a Sunday or a Monday that just feels more current. You know, it's only Tuesday and I feel like the weekly overview was like 3 or 4 days ago. I will still stand by the weekly overview. I think there's a lot in it. It's a happening week and we're kind of in the middle of part of what is happening. Mercury goes direct tomorrow. Venus trined Uranus earlier today. Venus is getting ready to oppose Neptune tomorrow on the 28th, and then on the 29th, Venus goes into Libra and trines Pluto. And, you know, there are a few lessons, I think, from the last weekly overview. I think it's better to kind of stick to the week. But every week is also different. This week is a little tricky because as we head towards the new moon in Virgo on the 2nd, which is a Monday, we've also got Mars squaring Neptune right on Monday. So it's not, you know, waiting till Saturday and Sunday to talk about that aspect didn't make sense. So it was a longer weekly overview. But given the fact that we've got Venus opposing Neptune tomorrow, and given the fact that we've got Mars squaring Neptune on the day of the new moon, actually a little after the new moon, so it's going to be encoded into that new moon. I'm going to discuss Mars squaring Neptune for the third time when we talk about the new moon in Virgo, when I do that video in a few days, because we have to. It's going to be encoded into that snapshot. In the weekly overview, I feel like I was searching around various ways to interpret these aspects, because there are different two or three scenarios, I won't say, that can play out when it comes to Neptune and these oppositions and the square. And of course, we've got, well, as I mentioned to you, there's something about Venus trining Uranus, opposing Neptune, trining Pluto, that is significant insofar as the sun is going to do the same thing at the time of the September 17th lunar eclipse in Pisces, which is going to be conjunct Neptune. And so the sun is going to oppose Neptune and trine Uranus before and trine Pluto after. And Mercury is going to do the same thing about a week after. So also, what's going on this week takes me back to the video I did on the various aspects that the personal planets are going to make as they go through the sign of Virgo. And we talked about how, yes, they're going to trine Uranus, but they are going to oppose Saturn and they are going to oppose Neptune. And by that I meant Venus and the Sun and Mercury. And a lot of those oppositions are encoded into the lunations until these planets clear Virgo and move into Libra. Indeed, even the new moon in Virgo on Monday, on September the 2nd, opposes Saturn. It's not a tight opposition. It's a little over 5 degrees, but Saturn is a powerful enough planet that it's worth it to think of it as opposing Saturn. There are two, before I go into summarizing, because I think it was worth it for me after I sat with what is going on this week and as we head into next week and what the energy of the time is and what can I leave you with that is shorter and more concise and more helpful in a certain sense. I'm not going to say that the weekly overview wasn't helpful. I just think that it went on for a little too long as I was looking at different scenarios. It could have been pithier. I thought, I think it's important to summarize the energy of the time again. And so that's why I'm doing this video. I do want to say, I wrote down a couple of notes here. I'm looking at them. Just as I said in my weekly overview, as the moon gets darker and darker, and you may already be feeling this now, but as we head into the later part of the week and into the weekend, just watch your mood and be gentle with yourself if you're starting to feel bleak and flat and depressed. Part of it you might even be feeling now, because as I've said, when Mercury is stationary, isn't it amazing, just as around August the 4th, certain types of communications just go into a standstill. It's the most astonishing thing. And it's a little bit like whenever it is that a solar eclipse is visible, you know, wherever I'm living, it's the most mysterious thing. And the last few ones that I've witnessed, whether they're partial or complete, have been in Los Angeles. And Los Angeles, you know, is a noisy city. I mean, I'm always talking about the noise. And I live in Glendale, so I don't even live that far away. And yeah, I live in an apartment complex, but it's hardly even the noisiest part of it. But, you know, there's the siren that goes off, and it's Los Angeles, so there's the helicopter, and then there's neighbors, and all those sounds seem so much more magnified when you're recording videos as well. And there's something about a solar eclipse as we head to it, and it's like the birds stop chirping, and all of a sudden there's just this hush. And it's happened now a couple of times that I watch for it, and I can't. There's a truth to it. There's something that happens to the energy. Now, when it comes to Mercury stationary, that too is surprising to me. This kind of, there are certain types of communications that even last week, even while Mercury was retrograde but had a certain amount of speed, may well have been occurring. And this week might just put us therefore into kind of hermit mode or even hanged man mode if we look at tarot cards that are similar in energy, because there's certain communications that may just get into a standstill, and it can create a sense of, oh my God, what's going on? Is this going on? Isn't this not going on? Is no one writing? Isn't this, no one's writing to me, and no one is doing this, no one's doing that, and it's particularly related to the houses ruled by Mercury in your chart, matters related to those houses. Now, we've been through this enough. Starting next week, things will start to liven up again. And with the slowdown, it also becomes important, I think, as the week progresses, and especially tomorrow, day after, Friday, to pay attention to what communications, if any, do occur. Who calls? Did they call around August the 4th when Mercury was stationary going retrograde? Tomorrow, Mercury stationary going direct. Are there any conversations that happen over the next 48 hours that are representative of or emblematic of what this Mercury retrograde period was about or has been about? And certainly, as I said in my weekly overview, to be, I'm doing this right after taking a shower, so my rose quartz isn't on me. I typically have it on. It's not a big deal. I just noticed that it wasn't on me when I touched myself here. And also to be in observation mode and to reflect on what is it that this Mercury retrograde may have delivered us a reality check on. Here's what's actually happening. Here's what's not happening. Here's what you can build a foundation on and the future next 3 months on, and here's what you can't build it on. And also sometimes I was, just talking to someone earlier today about something that had been finalized before Mercury went retrograde by the second Capricorn full moon or shortly thereafter. So well before, 10, 12 days before Mercury went retrograde. And paperwork needed to be signed when Mercury was retrograde. You're probably going to watch this video. And I thought, that's right. If it's done or it's finalized before Mercury goes retrograde, it's not the same energy. It's the stuff that we agree to. It's the stuff that comes to us when Mercury is retrograde, especially, that you have to watch for what happens after Mercury goes direct. But that doesn't mean that anything that comes to you while Mercury is retrograde is necessarily a hard no either. So there are always lessons around this. And as Mercury is starting to go direct, there could be something that starts to become more real about certain things that came to you while as Mercury goes direct, so Mercury was retrograde. So to be in observation mode as a certain layer of communications comes to a standstill while Mercury is stationary tomorrow, getting ready to go direct. And then Mercury does go direct tomorrow, but give it 48 hours or so for it to actually start to look like it's moving. And it's really going to be next week that we can feel Mercury start to move. Maybe even by the weekend we start to see some of that. But what that means is that anything that does happen from a communication perspective over the next 48 to 72 hours by the weekend, even through the weekend, could be new, but it's worth asking whether it has something to do with something that may have come to you while Mercury was retrograde, or lessons around Mercury retrograde, or what Mercury retrograde gave us a reality check about. Just worth kind of, and if you're feeling low or flat, or the energy is hermit or hangman-like, just be nice and kind to yourself and understanding this week, because I'm telling you, as I've told you before, unless for some reason you find yourself really busy, as you head towards the new moon, the 48, 72 hours before new moon, especially the 48 hours, 24 hours before new moon, can feel very bleak emotionally. So you just have to kind of remind yourself about where you are in the dark of the moon, wait for that new moon, and shortly after that new moon, I think you're going to start to feel as you wake up on Tuesday and Wednesday, you're going to start to feel the wind behind your sails again. The moon is still going to be dark, but we'll be on the right side of the new moon by that point in time. And of course, I'm going to do a new moon in Virgo video. Now, let's talk about this Venus trining Uranus, trining Pluto. Well, let's talk about the sequence. Venus trined Uranus earlier today, and I'm going to try my best to keep this pithy and concise, so that if you want to see me if you want to see me explore what these aspects could be about, take a look at the weekly overview video. And by all means, take a look at the weekly overview video, especially for the first half an hour, 40, because it might give you a sense of the energy of this week. It's in the second half of the video that I started to kind of explore. As I started to talk about Mars squaring Neptune, that's where sort of the piecing together of everything was starting to happen in real time. So here's the sequence. Venus trines Uranus. Trined Uranus earlier today. I'm doing this video on August the 27th, Tuesday, Pacific time, about 7:15 p.m. Pacific time. Okay, so earlier today, in the morning, in the wee hours, Venus trined Uranus in Taurus. Venus in Virgo, Uranus in Virgo. Tomorrow, Venus is going to oppose Neptune. Venus in Virgo, Neptune in Pisces. And on the 29th, Venus is going to enter Libra, and right as she enters Libra, she's going to trine Pluto in Aquarius. Venus in Libra, Pluto in Aquarius. Trines are harmonious, supportive aspects. So, and Venus has been going through the sign of Virgo pretty much all through Mercury retrograde, starting August the 4th when Mercury went retrograde until August the 29th when Mercury goes direct. And Virgo is a sign ruled by Mercury. So Venus, wherever she goes, and especially right now as she's traveling ahead of the Sun and Mercury, creates opportunities, relationship opportunities, financial opportunities, that offer, that job offer, that possibility of a job offer, that, oh, I heard about this, you should apply for this. Oh, Venus, very often we think of Jupiter as the planet that's creating the luck on the day-to-day basis. It's Venus, wherever she is, that's providing that gas, that excitement, that, just kind of keeps that spark. What we value, what could be of value to us. She's constantly asking about, here's something. Does it align with your values? Does it align with what you value? Does it align with your desire? So Venus through Virgo has certainly been doing her best to help things along. Some of what she has helped with may have a delayed outcome after Mercury goes direct, right? Because the Sun is already in Virgo now, and Mercury comes into Virgo on September the 9th, not that long. And September the 2nd, we have the new moon in Virgo. So once Mercury is direct, the ruler of Virgo, and starts to gather some speed, whatever it is that Venus has provided, whatever seeds Venus has planted, whatever is starting to sort of shoot from the ground a little bit, the Sun is going to observe it, and is already observing it as part of his annual travel through the sign of Virgo, the house occupied by Virgo in your chart. And the Sun is going to meet up with the moon on September the 2nd, inaugurating the month of Virgo. The word month derived from moon, and a time of action. Opportunities may actually come to you even within 48 to 72 hours, sometimes about a week. Rarely it takes 2 weeks. They can be subtle, but they'll be unmistakable, related to the Virgo part of the chart. Or you decide to take action on whatever Venus has been planting and what shoots are up there. New moon provides a certain amount of energy to manifest something, kind of at an annual level. Also continue to plant some seeds. Very often there's the idea that something that is planted or begun at the time of the new moon may reach a kind of culmination 6 months later at the time of the full moon. I find that a new moon occurs and things start to happen. We start to be more active around planting seeds, cultivating things, showing up to things. And then when Mercury comes in on September the 9th, a certain amount of communication, commuting, travel, contracts, agreements, discussion. I have no idea what that is. Sorry. It can occur to capitalize on those opportunities that Venus has created, and the energy and the activity and the seed planting that the new moon has encouraged. I am closing my window. Thank you. What could they possibly be doing? Banging on something metallic at 7:19 in the evening. But that's okay. They'll probably come back from work and taking care of some chores. So Venus has been doing, and Venus has already opposed Saturn. We talked about this at the time of the Aquarius full moon, when we had the Aquarius full moon on the 19th, not that long ago. God bless that man. We talked about the fact that the full moon squared Uranus in Taurus, but that what was encoded into the full moon was also the fact that Venus opposed Saturn, Venus in Virgo opposing Saturn in Pisces, and they were squared by Mars and Jupiter in Gemini. Well, what is happening this week, and what we continue to lean towards, and what continues to happen as we get the new moon in Virgo and the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, is that these energies kind of continue to be in conversation. On the September 17th full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, which I think is a much more, in many ways, exciting energy than the Aquarius full moon that we had just a few days ago, because we do have the sun trining Pluto and Uranus, which is a real sort of triangle of opportunity, a portal of sorts. But that full moon conjuncts Neptune and also squares Jupiter in Gemini. So this conversation between planets in Virgo, planets in Pisces, planets in Gemini, Virgo-Pisces oppositions squaring planets in Gemini, continues thematically. The idea that the planets that are moving through Gemini need to take some action to help stabilize the crisis in Pisces. The crisis in Pisces, as I've discussed in videos before, going on since 2012, may have peaked in 14-15, but especially 16-17. Saturn came into Pisces in March 2023, seeking to bring clarity to whatever's been going on that is nebulous, structure, stability. If Neptune in Pisces since 2012 in the Pisces part of your chart has been encouraging you to move in a more spiritual, renunciatory, monastic, or even creative, artistic direction, then a lot of this energy and Saturn's energy is going to be around building concrete plans to move in this direction. It's getting hot. I'm opening this window. Oh no, it's sealed shut. I will have to get up. Okay, that's fine. I'll just be incentivized to keep this even more concise. But if you've been dealing with loss or behaviors, or you've been the person creating some of the behaviors that have felt nebulous or foggy or not entirely clean or not entirely clear, or oh, sorry, when I got up, you may have seen my sweatshirt here. It doesn't matter. It's just a sweatshirt. You may have, if Neptune has been creating loss through deception or gaslighting, or you've been playing your cards very close to the chest, then Saturn is also seeking to bring some stability and clarity around matters relating to that, saying, here's what's real, here are the lessons around this, here's how to behave to create some stability while being karmically aware of what your own actions are, even if you're right or you're being effective or ineffective. And that conversation continues. Something about Mars and Jupiter going through Gemini seems to imply that actions need to be taken in the Gemini part of the chart to help stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. The house occupied by Gemini, the house occupied by Pisces. And there's a further suggestion, since we're dealing with this idea of planets opposing Saturn or Neptune in Pisces, that the planets that are opposing this week, Venus, by the time we get to the September 17th eclipse, actually even with the new moon on Monday, the sun, and the last week of September, Mercury. So as these planets oppose, there's this idea that something in the Virgo part of the chart, whatever it is that's being created or actions that are being taken, can contribute to directly, they can serve. There's a pull that whatever is being created in the Virgo part of the chart can be used directly to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. And this is the concise interpretation that I really wanted to deliver in this video. It's a little bit more optimistic, and that it does not mean there is definitely conflict and tension in the air. I don't know if you remember in June, July, when we had, in June especially, when we had the personal planets going through the sign of Gemini, squaring Saturn and Neptune. And that felt really uncomfortable. June felt heavy as a result of that. And once those planets entered the sign of Cancer and they trined Saturn and Neptune and Pisces, all of a sudden there was a certain amount of flow and productivity. And when we're talking about squares and oppositions, it is fair and accurate and appropriate to talk about heaviness of mood, a feeling of constriction, a feeling of fear, a feeling of conflict, a feeling of blockages. And particularly the planets that are going to be throwing their weight around and are throwing their weight around right now to create these blockages are Saturn and Neptune and Pisces. And I have told you all along, our expansion, our growth, our excitement is symbolized by the Aries, Taurus, and Gemini part of the chart. The part of the chart that is asking to be stabilized so it doesn't spill over and create chaos and possibly sabotage this forward movement is, of course, the Pisces part of the chart. It could be multiple things related to the Pisces part of the chart. It could be that you, for whatever reason, have had a hard time getting a handle on sorting out issues related to the Pisces part of the chart, the house occupied by Pisces in your chart. Since 2012, escalating through 14, 15, 16, and the time is now to kind of put some order and structure around it. Here's the thing. Venus trining Uranus and Venus trining Pluto are fundamentally opportunity-laden, harmonious transits that the sun will build on at the time of the September 17th eclipse and Mercury will seek to communicate on the week after. To me, the opposition to Neptune could, in certain cases, indicate the possibility of whatever the opportunity is, watch out for it, because there could be a kind of a theft associated with it. There could be Neptune and Pisces could exert enough influence to sabotage, affect the opportunity. It's a fair point and it needs to be stated. And the question becomes, could it be someone associated with the Gemini part of the chart who could be creating the possibility for some of this? And so with Mars and Jupiter going over Gemini, and with Mars and Jupiter conjuncting Gemini just recently, last week, on about the 14th or 15th of August, is this what they're trying to indicate with regard to what needs to end and what needs to begin? Jupiter, wherever he goes, creates an ending of a 12, 13-year cycle, start of a 12, 13-year cycle. The Mars-Jupiter conjunction would have certainly put a punctuation or an exclamation or a need for action or an awareness around this. The bottom line is this. There's also, and I'm not silver lining this to be unnecessarily positive. There's also a possibility that if Venus is drumming up opportunities in the Virgo part of the chart, those opportunities may bring you something in terms of finances and relationships that can contribute to helping stabilize the Pisces part of the chart, and that can contribute to creating a new beginning in the Gemini part of your chart. And I really want you to hear that again, because I really feel like somewhere we need to be alert to this opportunity. Now, remember, Venus is coming through first, the Sun second, Mercury third. and there's a new moon on the 2nd. So it could be that you might be like, Abby, this week, I'm not sensing any opportunities. In fact, it feels like everything is at a standstill. In 15 minutes, the sun is going to set. And it's already starting to look like the sun is going to set. And we have this conversation all the time. So, sorry, that was very silly. But, you know, would it really kill me to have my lights up here so I can just switch to them when the sun is setting? It clearly would not. So let's hear that again. Now, actually, let me just finish my thought. It's possible that whatever opportunities Venus has been drumming up are in the nascent stage, are still in the background, especially with Mercury having been retrograde and this week stationary. So you may not necessarily have a sense of what opportunities is he talking about. This trine to Uranus, helping us move in a direction that is more right for us, more individual to us. Our path, our breadcrumbs in the Taurus part of the chart. Venus providing an opportunity, financial or relationship or creative or beautifying or luxurious or what we value, trining Pluto in Aquarius as he's getting ready to move into Capricorn in a few days on Saturday. What could possibly, should I be feeling something? Let's just assume that you might, or chances are it might be something that Venus is kind of germinating in the background as the sun comes in, and as the new moon occurs, there may be more clarity or action or around it. You might get into action about something a lot more. And by the time we get to the full moon eclipse, the sun is going to be in the same place as Venus, and the week after that, at the end of September, Mercury. So let's just say that something grows and becomes more visible over time. Also with Venus, you have to allow for the fact that Venus directly talks to our own sense of self-worth. And what we feel we have to add a value and how we charge for it and what relationships we build around it. And our values and what we value. So it could be that somewhere through the Virgo part of the chart, we are once the new moon happens, that if it's not about external opportunities, it's that we get into a certain amount of action related to the Virgo part of the chart. But once again, what I wanted to say the second time is, whatever it is that Venus is drumming up, whether it is inspiration on our side to move forward and take action on something starting next week after the new moon in Virgo, whether it is an opportunity that comes to us, whatever it is that Venus is drumming up, especially if she feeds our sense of self-worth or creates opportunities or channels for finances or relationships, may well serve or help us to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart and help create the ending and the new beginning in the Gemini part of the chart. The need to watch out for, because the full moon lunar eclipse on September the 17th, another light is going on. There we go. So there's at least some light. It's not ideal, but it'll do. At least it's light. Whatever it is may feel like, especially because we're talking about Neptune, and it takes me back to the week before and after July the 17th, and as we headed to July the 21st. For those of us who felt like, even though that full moon on July the 21st was in Capricorn, we could really feel something related to the Pisces part of the chart, particularly these Neptunian energies, deceptive energies. It could be that we are aware of the fact that they're still present and that they could exercise an influence in such a way that they affect our ability to capitalize on the opportunity created by Venus. But I actually want to flip that on its head, and I feel like it is possible. As I said, I'm not blowing smoke here. Because Venus talks directly to our sense of self-worth, you can't really be effective in Venusian matters, whether it is experiencing financial abundance and flow, or manifesting and attracting the right relationships, without solving or sorting out this particular aspect of Venus. Do we value ourselves? Do we love ourselves? Do we care for ourselves? And a damaged Venus, or especially if we are brought up in households or cultures where you're taught to negate yourself to make others happy or to conform, then that damaged Venus can really create havoc as we grow older with regard to where it is that we seek validation and how we seek validation. If we don't believe that we are enough, and if we don't believe that we are, for example, attractive enough, and I mean in a Venusian sense, not only when it comes to feeling attractive romantically and confident romantically, but also attractive enough, comfortable in our own skin. I mean attractive enough so that we aren't chasing energetically opportunities or people, but we're comfortable enough that we know that as long as we are who we are in as healthy and balanced a way as possible, and it's not always possible. Every day, these things feel different. And where we are at on that scale can be different based on what we're dealing with and how we're feeling. But the more comfortable we are in our own skin and our own sense of worth and our own sense of, you know what, I've got this, I can handle this, I can manage this, the greater the chance that we don't hold ourselves below something so that we get into that kind of chasey mode. And we can just attract. It's not attracting manipulatively. It's just an energy of being in the flow. And it takes a certain trust in ourselves, trust in the universe. If you don't trust yourself, it's going to be very, very hard for you. Let me remove the word you. If we don't trust ourselves, it's very hard for us to trust anybody else. And ultimately, it might be that we go into a place of suspicion around other people. But really what we're suspecting and insecure about is how we might give our power away when we're around those people, because we don't trust ourselves to be able to protect ourselves or be grounded enough to be able to manage anything that comes our way. Similarly, if we don't love and value ourselves, it becomes difficult to be really able to extend perhaps the right kind of love and the right kind of support to other people. Now, that right kind of love or support may not work for people who are expecting us to sacrifice ourselves, to do things their way. But those people are not really asking for love or support. They're asking for a kind of slavery. They're saying that they want your love, but they really just want to use you. When you have Venus opposing Neptune, there can be awareness, because we've been dealing with Neptune's energies for so long, and because we have planets opposing Saturn, then opposing Neptune, and Saturn and Neptune working towards conjuncting over the summer of 2025 and then walking out hand in hand in early 2026. I'm going to invite you to look at these oppositions with Saturn. And at present, and even till the middle of next month, September, which is starting to feel like this month very soon, the squares to Mars and Gemini in Mars and Jupiter in Gemini. Venus is the fastest moving of these planets. And the faster moving planets serves the slower moving planet in an opposition, and the faster moving planet has to take some action to allow the slower moving planet in a square so that the slower moving planet in the square can actually achieve what it is trying to achieve. Venus is really quite a prime mover this week, insofar as she trines Uranus, opposes Neptune, trines Pluto. There is some sort of opportunity she may be working on, which is an external opportunity, or emotionally and psychologically, between her and then the sun, as we get to the lunar eclipse on September 17th, and then Mercury at the end of September. Even going back to the week before and after July the 17th or the July 21st full moon in Capricorn. If there was something that was building in a certain amount of intensity as we headed to that made you feel like it's a full moon in Capricorn, but I really feel like I'm dealing with issues related to the Pisces part of the chart. As I've said to you, 2 months before an eclipse, I think we can feel the eclipse. I've been seeing that. I keep getting evidence of that. Either it's something external that might be germinating, that might come through, that we start acting on after September the 2nd. And it could be something that's been germinating for a while, that there may have been a certain amount of confusion around while Mercury was retrograde that shows up again in cleaner format, or it's something that came through while Mercury was retrograde that becomes clearer, but in the process details have to be adjusted as you head into next week, or it's something that you respond to or act on, or something that continues to grow as an external opportunity as you work through September and into the end of September. Or else it might be that we emotionally, internally, are tapping into our own sense of self-worth and what we value in a Venusian sense. Remember the Empress card in the tarot with the Venus symbol on it. Venus can be accused of passivity, but she doesn't jump around like Mercury, and she doesn't move around and run around like Mars. Venus cultivates, nurtures, makes things grow where they are. In a certain stillness, we may be tapping into our power this week, our sense of self-worth, what we value, in such a way that at this particular stage of Neptune's transit with Saturn also in Pisces, that while we may be aware of Neptunian forces at work, and while we may be aware that especially as we head towards the full moon lunar eclipse on September the 17th, that they may come up again, and quite frankly, we may be dealing with them all the way while Saturn is in Pisces and trying to create stability in the Pisces part of the chart till January, February of 26, and maybe even all the way to February 27, when we have the last of the Pisces eclipses. Pisces Virgo eclipses. It could be that you are in the somewhat uncomfortable but ultimately empowering place this week, where you are tapping into your own sense of self-worth, what you value, self-confidence, your own Venusian sense of, I am here, so I must be right, as opposed as in my whole complete state. There must really fundamentally not be anything wrong with me. because I'm here. And if everything happens through providence and the energy, then I deserve to be here. And I have something to do, and I have something to give, and I have something to, and I deserve abundance and the right opportunities, the right jobs, the right relationships. And it may be that a lot of that stems from the two things we were talking about. Do we love ourselves? Do we trust ourselves? Can we get into that centered space where we do so? And by doing that, are we able to manage Neptune's energies in the Pisces part of our chart more effectively? Do we take some sort of relationship or financial action this week to help stabilize the Neptune part of our chart in a way that, or do we think about it? Do we gain a certain amount of confidence around it? Because with Neptune going over the sign of Pisces, it might be that we feel like the Pisces part of our chart, the house occupied by matters related to that have been unraveling because we just have not been able to put up some sort of structure or plan around it. And Saturn is certainly helping with that. Deal with it. Keep saying deal with it. Deal with it. Don't run away from it. Deal with it. Deal with it. Deal with it. So while there is a risk, as always there is with oppositions and squares, that Venus trining Uranus and Venus trining Pluto, whether it is an external opportunity or an internal connecting to our sense of self-worth, which I'm going to put my money on as the more important thing that is going on this week and has been going on with Venus transiting Virgo throughout August. There is a risk that we're going to come face to face with Neptune. Venus comes face to face with Neptune tomorrow. The Sun comes face to face with Neptune shortly after the lunar eclipse on the 17th, and Mercury the week after. The new moon on the 2nd comes face to face with Saturn. So something about it energetically allows us to take action in the sign of Virgo to serve Saturn's desire to create stability in the Pisces part of the chart. In addition, on Monday, on the day of the new moon in Virgo that opposes Saturn in Pisces, Mars squares on that day after the new moon Neptune in Pisces. So first, Venus this week takes some sort of action, whether it's there is a risk, we go into the face-off with Neptune going, oh, these energies again. And we can feel the risk of Neptunian issues related to the Pisces part of the chart. We feel the risk that in a tug of war, Neptune will win and just pull either our Venusian sense of self-worth or whatever this opportunity is. And Venus certainly seems to be on trying to create something pretty special, whether it is by tapping into our sense of self-worth or creating an opportunity with a trine to Uranus and a trine to Pluto that the Sun then builds on and Mercury builds on. There could be this sense that Neptune will just, and if you're dealing with Neptunian influences in the Pisces part of the chart that feel like you're dealing with someone being deceptive or someone just, or your own inability to get real about certain things, you may well be very sensitive to that. And Neptune certainly is putting a stop to Mars, trying to either set boundaries or take appropriate action in the Gemini part of the chart. Mars would want to set boundaries in the Gemini part of the chart, probably around the influences or factors or emotional states that Jupiter is trying to end, the cycle that Jupiter is trying to end. The 12, 13-year cycle Jupiter is trying to end as he transits Gemini right now. Mars and Jupiter conjuncted last week. Mars way well, if Mars is setting boundaries, maybe like, you know what, I need to accelerate certain endings, but Mars may also be very clear that he needs to take action towards new beginnings. And Venus and Mars squared and were in conversations very recently at around the time of the Aquarius full moon, shortly after the Aquarius full moon, a week ago. So now Venus comes in, internal sense of self-worth, tap into your Venusian energy, trust yourself, love yourself. And then you'll be able to, in a Venusian, diplomatic, harmonious way, be able to set boundaries and avail of opportunities, either by exerting your own efforts after the September 2nd new moon, or because Venus is bringing something to you that could really be a stepping stone towards you moving in the right direction for yourself in the Taurus part of the chart, and helping Pluto complete his transformation in the Capricorn part of the chart and begin his transformation in the Aquarius part of the chart. And the Sun will then build on this, and Mercury will build on this as we head to middle of September and end of September, respectively. And by Venus introducing the sense of self-worth and possibly this opportunity, Mars can then take whatever action he needs to take in the Gemini part of the chart, as well as Jupiter, because by the time we get to the full moon lunar eclipse, Jupiter will be squaring that eclipse. And that eclipse, Jupiter does not square Neptune. Jupiter is going to go retrograde on October the 4th. So Jupiter is not going to make it to squaring Neptune before he goes retrograde. I think Jupiter squares Neptune in the middle of next year when Jupiter enters Cancer and Neptune enters Aries. You know what? Certainly Jupiter and Saturn's third square occurs there. It could be that the Neptune square actually occurs in Cancer, but the bottom line is it's not happening this year. But Jupiter's getting ready to be in that conversation as he moves forward to October the 4th when he's going to go retrograde. But certainly at the time of the September 17th eclipse, that eclipse, while conjunct Neptune, is squaring Jupiter. So Venus is building our sense of self-worth, and Venus is maybe providing some opportunity will help Mars take action, hopefully, in alignment with the sense of self-worth, either to set appropriate boundaries in the Gemini part of the chart or to avail of opportunities that help create this ending and new beginning that Jupiter's trying to create in the Gemini part of the chart. And Venus opposes Neptune tomorrow, and Mars squares Neptune on Monday, the day of the Virgo new moon. And that square, the Mars-Neptune square, is encoded into that new moon for the rest of September. And so Mars can then pick up on that energy and take the action he needs to take in the Gemini part of the chart so that we can manage the energies of Neptune and Pisces more effectively than we have been doing previously. We can accept what Neptune wants us to lose attachment to. We can release what Neptune is saying, I need you to sacrifice this. But we can also start to move in a direction where we are less negatively impacted, confused, affected by Neptune's tendency to dissolve our ability to deal with the matters of the house that he is transiting in a concrete and real and effective way. With the opposition to the squares, there's a sense of tension and conflict in the air. There's a fear. And there is, if action is not taken, because the opposition and the square are requiring Venus and Mars to do the work that they need to in the Virgo and the Gemini part of the chart respectively to stabilize Neptunian energies in the Pisces part of the chart. So if action is not taken, or if that sense of self-worth is not cultivated, or opportunities are not capitalized on without learning the lessons that we've been learning and incorporating since 2012, then sure, Neptune might just be like, might affect us negatively. We might be very aware of feeling like, oh, if I don't change something here. And the funny thing is, you may already have had a taste of standing up to something the week before and after July the 17th. And so Venus's trines to Uranus and Pluto and the opposition to Neptune are really just part of that conversation. Get in touch with your Venusian self, your sense of what you value, your sense of trusting yourself, loving yourself, nurturing what you value, investing in what you value. Because it may be that what is cultivated can actually help manage the fogginess created by Neptune in the Pisces part of the chart. If, for example, Neptune has been creating relationship challenges or fogginess, you're tapping into your sense of self-worth in the Virgo chart, part of your chart, can create an opportunity, whether it is emotional or your own sense of self-worth, or even financial, where you're able to say, you know what, this is what I'm going to use to put some structure around the Pisces part of the chart. This is how I'm going to help Saturn manage Neptune's energies, either by building concrete plans towards a more monastic or spiritual or artistic or inspired direction, or by managing the sense of loss and deception and gaslighting and vagueness and fogginess and paranoia and our inability to manage matters related to the Pisces part of the chart in an effective way so far. This, for me, feels more energetically, as I said, I'm not going to remove the threat of the challenge that Neptune is exercising this week. But Uranus and Pluto are not weak planets. So if Venus gets to trine Uranus and Venus gets to trine Pluto, and she has support from the two other outer planet heavy hitters, and she's opposing Neptune, she's got a lot of help. And not just help from Mercury or Mars. She's got help from Uranus, she's got help from Pluto. They're saying, we're ready to go. Tap into your power, tap into your singularity, and grow either what you need to grow internally, emotionally, or start to take action towards translating that to something external in the Virgo part of the chart, and that will help stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. Or an opportunity may come up that Venus creates that we get to build on and cultivate and show up for as September progresses. And whatever is gained from that will allow Mars and Jupiter in the Gemini part of the chart to help create the endings and new beginnings and set the boundaries and move towards the new directions in the Gemini part of the chart. Mars likes to pursue goals in the Gemini part of the chart, and will also help Saturn stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. Now, this to me feels like a more conclusive and a more satisfying and more usable description of the energies this week concerning Venus opposing Neptune, trining Uranus and Pluto, and Mars getting ready to square Neptune, than some of what I was trying to circle around in the last weekly overview. As I said, the weekly overview is still very relevant for the two primary energies this week, which is Mercury stationary going direct tomorrow, and Venus making these three aspects. It does get covered there. But I really felt like this was needed. I know it was not that short. As you know, I am still doing the 30-minute single topic, single area focus $50 readings right now through September 11th. I am becoming much better at them, and it's not a question of becoming better at them interpretively. It's becoming the reason why I wanted to do these is to see if they work, which they do, see if they answer a need, which they certainly do, and see if I can keep to the point and actually deliver to the question within 30 to 40 minutes, which I have been able to do, but also I needed the practice to curb my desire and impulse to give a full reading as a result of that. And some of that is very natural for me as an astrologer, because other parts of the chart also, when I look at a chart, demand expression, but that's not what a 30-minute reading is about. It's a single topic area of focus. So I very much appreciate people who have availed of it and given me that time to continue to refine how to. It's really more of an emotional, empathic thing for me to get to a place where I am comfortable calling it a day and not feeling like I need to start talking about other things. It's that practice that is more relevant and important to me. And I think people who've done them people have been wonderful about it all. So I am still offering, if you have a single question, single topic of focus, single area of focus, and you want to do a reading for 30 minutes, my regular readings are like 60 to 75 minutes. For $50, if you want to do a single topic, then feel free. Whatever it is, whether you want a regular reading, just know that those single topic readings at $50 are going to continue till September 11th. But if you're interested in availing of them, or interested in finding out about the fuller reading, use my email address. I'm going to stop rambling in the description below, and contact me there, and I can get you information. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't already, and next to the subscribe button and bell icon, hover over that wiggly bell on top, click on that. You'll be notified when I do new videos. There's a thanks button underneath. You can use that to contribute to the channel. Comment, like the video. If you feel so inclined, it gives the video greater circulation on YouTube. And yeah, I think next I need to focus on doing the new moon in Virgo video in a couple of days. Thanks so much for your participation and your attention. As I said, really kind of felt compelled to do this. Thank you. Take care.